What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Balian, back with another episode of the Sports Pod. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Mets' trade to acquire Marcus Semeien from the Texas Rangers and the Giants' loss in overtime to the Detroit Lions. I'll get into all of it on the other side of the intro. Hit it.
DiVincenzo at three. Bang! Bang! At the wall, he jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career.
All right, getting into the episode and starting with the Mets trade to get Marcus Semeien from the Texas Rangers. I'm not too mad at this contract. I know a lot of people are going to be very upset that Brandon Nimmo is leaving, but those are just the fans of Brandon Nimmo. And trust me, I love Brandon Nimmo. He's been here for the better part of a decade. He's got the hustle. He's got the fight. He's got the want to. He's a really solid baseball player. I just think it's time to move on from him. He's had an illustrious career as far as Mets history goes. I know not in terms of actual baseball history, but in terms of the Mets franchise, he is one of the best players of all time. He's done everything the right way. I think it's just time for a shift. And I think that's what this offseason is going to bring. And a lot of fans aren't going to want to usher in a new era of Mets baseball. Because listen, the vibes were off last year. In 2024, with the whole comeback and the Make It Happen Mets, everything went the Mets' way. With Grimace, with the playoff pumpkin, it was just everything. It was the Mets' year. And they squandered it away, but you got to move on from that. And then in 2025, you bring in Juan Soto. Or Juan Solo, as he turned out to be. But the vibes are still on the uptick. Everyone is still so hyped up, anticipating the season. And it just didn't turn out to be what everyone thought it was going to be. I mean, the Mets missed the playoffs with a team that consisted of Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, who had a great bounce back year. I mean, Brandon Nimmo was one of the key pieces of that team, but his production has dipped over the last 2 years. There's no refuting that. So it's just time to move on. He's an expensive player. He's a long contract. I believe there's either 7 or 8 more seasons that Brandon Nimmo would be a Met if they didn't move off his contract. And listen, I know people were calling for Nimmo to be moved at the trade deadline. I thought that was a little bit aggressive. I wanted the Mets to see the season through with this new core. But now I think it's time. I'm going to keep going back to it. But Nimmo was a great Met. His career, he's on the way out. I think that's the bottom line. And the other couple aspects of it are that it opens up a spot for either Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger. I mean, Cody Bellinger's a primary left fielder, so that would make more sense. But I don't think it's going to stop the Mets from going after Kyle Tucker, left field versus right field. I think those two guys, just the Mets jumped up on their list because there is an open corner outfield position that they could play. And the Mets, they're becoming an attractive destination. I know I just talked about how the vibes were off in 2025, but with Steve Cohen, with the projects that Citi Field is going, and the area surrounding Citi Field, it's going to include a casino. It's going to be the Citi Field Park or whatever it's called. It's going to be so much nicer than what it is right now. I mean, there's already a building or two up around Citi Field, but over the next 7-8 years, so right when Nimmo's contract would have been ending, but that area is going to be complete. And I think, though, that's kind of the contract that these guys are going to be looking for. I think more so Kyle Tucker than Cody Bellinger, because as of late, we've seen Bellinger probably the last 2 or 3 off seasons. He's taken those 2-year deals, 3-year deals with an opt-out after the first season, and then he's played very well in both Chicago and New York and opted out of his deal. So that's where I feel like this year he could be heading into the offseason looking for that big deal where he's going to be a career Met or a career Cub, a career Yankee, whatever it is, where he's signing that long-term contract this offseason. And with Kyle Tucker, I don't have a doubt in my mind that he's looking for a 10-plus year contract. And the Mets are in a position to sign both of those guys because their owner is Steve Cohen, who does not care how deep he has to reach into his pockets to make something happen. So both those guys have to be on the Mets' radar, and the Mets have to be on both of those guys' radar. It's really a mutual connection at this point. And the last thing I'll talk about on Brandon Nimmo's side is that in 2025, he was really an awkward fit in the lineup. I mean, he is a real leadoff hitter. And he's an old school leadoff hitter where he's going to get on base. He's not going to hit a ton of homers. He's going to put the ball in play. That's what Brandon Nimmo does. He's not going to overpower you, sending the ball out of the park. That's just not Nimmo's game. But ever since Lindor took over that leadoff spot with force, Nimmo's not really a 2-hitter. He's not a 6-hitter. Those are a 5-hitter. Those are the kind of spots that the Mets tried to put him in, but I just don't see Brandon Nimmo as one of those guys. In my eyes, he is a true leadoff hitter, and I know his power has taken an uptick over the last 2 years or so. It hasn't improved enough for me to consider him as a 2-hitter, a 5-hitter, a 6-hitter. That is for guys like Pete Alonso. Well, not Pete, but like Juan Soto was a 2-hitter. I know he took on the 3 role this season, but Starling Marte is a good example of a second hitter. I think I'm going to exclude this past season, but in the past, like in the 2022 season, so his first season as a Met, Marte, it was Nimmo 1, Marte 2, Lindor 3, Alonso 4. I believe, and Marte was second for all 162 games, and that was his role. He hit probably 25 home runs across the season. He was getting on base. He was swiping bags. That's not what Brandon Nimmo does, and that's what the Mets need out of their second hitter, who right now I don't know what it's going to be. It was a revolving door in the 2025 season. I hope they figure out who that guy is in 2026. Maybe it ends up being Marcus Semeien. I could see Semeien being that guy. The only problem is I don't know if Semeien is going to play every day. But when he's making $25 million, he kind of has to play every day. Which that's one of the negatives in my eyes for the contract, because I do want Ronnie Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna to continue to develop in the middle infield. I just don't know if that's possible now with another guy and another bat in the mix. And Semein's not a guy that's going to get hurt. He's missed minimal time throughout his career. I would say the number is probably less than 20 games. I think he's one of those guys who's always on the field. I think he had a hand injury either this year or last year. But other than that, he's going to be in the lineup. You can pencil him in 160 games a season. And I think he's going to be able to mentor Luis Angel Acuna and Ronnie Mauricio. I mean, Jeff McNeil is supposed to be the mentor now. McNeil isn't that. He's got anger issues of his own. He flips out when things aren't going his way. I mean, he's struggled. He's washed. And that's the bottom line. I think he will be gone before opening day. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit more later in the episode. But Jeff McNeil is probably not going to be a Met in 2026. Marcus Semeien will take over his role. And I like Marcus Semeien more than Jeff McNeil. But I think the bottom line is Semeien is here not only to replace Brandon Nimmo's production, not only to open up a left field corner outfield spot for Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger, but to be a mentor and to be a guy that Acuna and Mauricio can both look up to and go to for guidance, as they're young, they're in the early stages of their career, they're still trying to figure things out at the major league level. I mean, Acuna showed so much promise in 2024, but in 2025, he didn't bring any of that to the table. I know he showed a lot of maturity. I know he was He's always going to be a solid glove, but I feel like his hitting took a big step back in the limited opportunities that he had. And in Ronnie Mauricio's case, he played a lot of third base last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos just platoon that position this year if Vientos is able to bounce back to what he did in 24, because in 25, he didn't have it whatsoever. And if Vientos can't replicate his 2024 success, Brett Beatty might take that position outright, and it'll be Ronnie Mauricio versus Luis Angel Acuna battling it out for second base. But Marcus Semeien is going to be there for those guys, and I get it. It's $25 million, so it's not a cheap contract by any means, and you're paying that for a mentor, but he's also a guy that's going to produce for you. I think Semeien is the opening day second baseman, and I think he is the everyday second baseman until one of the young guys can prove that they're ready, and then that they can sustain MLB success over a long period of time. And you only have Semeien for 3 seasons, so it's not locking you into this crazy contractual mess where now Semeien is your second baseman until 2031. I know he's 35 years old already, but I don't hate the contract situation there. In fact, I think it's a better contract situation than the Mets were in with Brandon Nimmo. And now getting to the last aspect of this deal, David Stearns and the Mets front office. What were they thinking? I think this is sending a message that the culture of the New York Mets is going to be vastly different in 2026. This is the first of many moves that David Stearns is going to make this offseason to ensure the Mets are a different team, and whether that means Pete Alonso is here, whether that means the pitching is more fortified, whether Jeff McNeil gets traded for some pitchers, the Mets will be a stronger group in 2026. I don't see a world where a young, bright executive like David Stearns watched the Mets play for 162 games last year and realized that they couldn't make a late innings comeback and thought that this team was strong enough as they are. No. David Stearns knows that this team needs some leadership, needs some guys, some veterans, I'll add, that are going to keep everyone on track and not let anyone get off the rails when the team is down. The Mets are going to be a different group in 2026, and this is David Stearns sending a message that, hey, I don't care who has to go. We will not have the same issues we had in 2025. And the other thing, some of the ensuing deals that Stearns will make are going to really seal this deal and make it one that Mets fans look back on and realize was a really good contract. I think that starts with trading Jeff McNeil for pitching. I mean, I don't have exact names on the market for you right now, but all I know is that Jeff McNeil has to be off the roster, and he has to be replaced with pitchers, whether they're starters or relievers. The Mets need to make pitching a position of priority, and Jeff McNeil is a player that some teams would want, and a guy that the Mets would be able to get a player or two out of, and hopefully it comes on the pitching front. All right, now getting to the New York Giants, another loss, and a loss to a competent team. In fact, a playoff team. This time to the Lions, which I can respect, but what I can't respect is how they got there. The Giants, once again, were leading in the fourth quarter on the road, but stupid coaching and stupid decisions has the Giants at 2-10, and they've already been eliminated from postseason contention. All right, I think that this game solidifies the fact that the Giants are going to tank. I can't see a world where they wanted to win that game and Mike Kafka and Shane Bowen and the rest of the coaching staff made the decisions that they did. When you are inside the 5-yard line with less than 3 minutes to go, with a chance to take a 6-point lead, and you decide to go for it on 4th down rather than kicking a field goal, you clearly don't want to win. And if you do want to win, then every single person on the coaching staff has to be fired. Not a single person can remain, because that's just unacceptable. I don't care who the head coach is next year. These decisions are just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, there's no other world than that this has to be a game that the Giants wanted to play competitive, but then ended up losing in the end. I think that was probably the goal, to show people that we can compete, but we're not going to win in the end. And then so just transitioning into some of the defensive issues, because there are plenty. This team doesn't know how to win. It's like they wanted to lose that game, which they did. They don't know how to seal the deal. It's time and time again. It's week after week. In the fourth quarter, the defense falls apart. Jahmyr Gibbs went for a 49-yard touchdown run untouched. Put a body on him. Make a play. Like, I know this season is lost. I know you're not winning anything, but have some pride. The Giants are a team where you draft a couple of young guys, a couple promising young guys in Jackson Dart, in Cam Scatterbo, in Abdul Carter. And I know two of them are on the sidelines watching helplessly, because I know they wouldn't let this happen. But Abdul Carter is in there. Abdul Carter, he's playing all right. He's not the superstar. He's not a superstar, which you can expect in his rookie year. But it's like, there's times in this game where it's a big third down, and Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence are both on the sidelines. Like, if you're Shane Bowen, if you're Mike Kafka, you can't expect the combination of Brian Burns and Abdul Carter to generate pressure by themselves. I know Brian Burns has been tremendous this year, but you're dealing with a rookie in Abdul Carter. You just can't trust that. Everything has gone wrong for the Giants. The coaching staff is to blame, but the players are as well. I mean, they haven't been anything to brag about. There is issues on all levels of this team. And I mean, when you're scoring 2 of your touchdowns on trick plays, some of the success has to be superficial. Like, that's it's just not real. It's not sustainable. So I don't even know if them scoring 24 points was real. It's not something I can expect out of them every week. And for the second straight week, we got the Jameis Winston experience. I mean, he looked really good for the better portion of this game, but when it came down to it, when the Giants needed him to put together a huge drive, he's throwing wobbling passes, and on 4th and 5 in overtime with the game on the line, he stayed in the pocket and he took a sack from Aiden Hutchinson. The one thing you cannot do in that situation is take a sack. I don't care if that ball is picked off. I don't care if you fumble. You have to make something happen. You have to put your guys, that being the receivers, in a position to make a play. There's no other way you can win if you're going down helplessly. Just another putrid performance from the Giants. And it's a lost season, I get it. But you do want to create that culture. And now the Giants, I think they're slotted. They have the 2nd overall pick in the draft right now. So they better add someone to the secondary or another receiver to pair Malik Neighbors with next year. Or this season was a complete and utter failure. But I will say, Joe Schoen has been pretty solid in the players that he's drafted. I'm not concerned. I'm not expecting the Giants to miss like I would be if I were a Jet fan. The Giants do hit on picks at a reasonable rate. They've hit on Tyler Nubin. I am a fan of Nubin's, but early returns on Jackson Dart are positive. Malik Neighbors is a stud. I don't know how long Scatterbo is going to keep his act up for, but he had a really good year before he went down with the ankle issue. So the Giants can make this right, but right now it's just so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, that's going to do it for the episode. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, following, commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing it with a friend. I really appreciate all of it. Also, if you want to have your sports questions or takes featured on the Sports Pod, please leave me a voicemail at 848-305-8073. Again, that's 848-305-8073. And last but not least, make sure you keep it locked with the Sports Pod.